Look good. Your LinkedIn look good. All right. Hello, one and all. This is Dr. Eurydice Moore. I know that's Kimberly. I saw that one. Um, since I'm on Restream and I'm doing multi-streaming, I can't see names or anything, so I just know that's my niece. I really enjoyed talking to you earlier. So I don't know who's on Periscope. I don't know who's on nothing. YouTube. Um, so I'm going to proceed, and I try to do 1 hour of reading and discussion. I read something, then I discuss it. Sometimes I recap, refer back to other days. Yesterday we had a great time. If you want to know what that was about, go to YouTube or Facebook and pull that book reading number 2. Today is book reading number 3. Um, I'm sharing a book reading. Okay, you see my name, you really see more. And you see the cover. Isn't the cover interesting? It shows a swing, a cloud, blood, shattered glass. All that summarizes my life. Okay. Each one of that is symbolic of something. Okay, I'd like to welcome my number 2 person. Don't know who you are, can't see anything. But I'm doing storytelling, trying to get more people to come on. My daughter Rita and I was talking, and she said, "Mom, they probably think you lecturing or something." I said, "Well, I use storytelling. You know, it's late in the evening. People probably don't feel like learning anything. You did your 9 to 5. Okay, now." The name of this book is called Riddy Ann Overcoming the Odd. It is my autobiography. The Lord blessed me to receive a grant, and I was able to write that and 3 other books. Altogether, I'm an author of 7 books. 4 has been done by Mercure Publishing, and then other 3 through Amazon. Okay, if you would like to purchase this book comes in hardback, paperback, and ebook. And you can purchase this book from Mercure Publishing Company, Amazon, Borders, Walmart, online stores. Riddy Ann Overcoming the Odds. So let's proceed. I promised my Kimberly that I will read about Arvella. Arvella was someone on the block that lived way at the end of the other block. And I was on the opposite end. And somehow or another we met and we became friends. So let me read this. On a day when Arvella and Riddy was on their way to school, something else happened. In the 8th grade, Riddy's favorite subject was history. Mr. Robert White made history exciting. Oh, let me go on this side. This is my favorite side. Mr. Robert White made history exciting. The only complaint that Riddy had about Mr. White was that he wore too much cologne. All the girls loved Mr. White. Riddy saw him as a father figure. It was on the way to school that Arvella revealed her harebrained scheme. Inside her big black purse was a black lace negligee. Yes, this girl is in 8th grade, 16 years old, and she got a negligee in her bag. Avella told Riddy, I am in love with him. With who? Riddy asked. Mr. White. Avella answered while giggling. Avella further informed Riddy that I'm going to sneak into the bathroom and put on this for my man in between classes. How are you going to do that without anyone noticing you? Riddy inquired. With my coat, silly, Avella said. I am not the one, Riddy retorted. Just thinking about what Avella had cooked up caused beads of sweat to pop up across her forehead. Her hands grew clammy as the class period was about to end. Sure enough, Avella's lustful nature could linger no longer, and she got a washroom pass from Mr. White. She returned with her black shiny coat on, with leaving little to the imagination underneath. The bell rung, and the class emptied out. Avella and Riddy's eyes locked as Avella was leaving out of the classroom. It was 10 minutes later when commotion was heard throughout the hall. Riddy stuck her head out of the door, and Avella was standing in the hall, but not alone. The principal, assistant principal, counselor, and Mr. White was all in a panic and screaming at Avella. She was dragged down the stairs by security. Avella was crying as she was escorted away. Big Mama told Riddy to stay away from Avella. Avella was trouble. It was just as well because strange things started happening the last few times that they was together alone. When the two of them was alone, Avella started rubbing and twisting Riddy's hair. Then Avella rubbed Riddy's cheek lightly. Riddy slapped her and ran once again out of Avella's house. Then the grand finale took place, and the straw that broke the camel back occurred. Avella's brother Victor had tried to rape Riddy. Riddy got away with her clothes on. Riddy later found out that Avella had been expelled from school. Avella could not live it down. Avella's mama and daddy gave her a whooping, and the neighborhood boys was after her like dogs in heat. Eventually, the family moved away. Riddy tearfully found out that Avella would be going to another school. Years later, Avella met a nice man, got married, and had children. She also became a nurse and then a minister. Avella's life turned around. Riddy was the only one to miss Avella and her family. The neighbors considered them as pests and would call them the Foot family because of the way all of them walked, swaying back and forth and acting as though their feet hurt. All right, so that's on today. So, what do we have? We have two teenagers. One is 13, the other one is 16. Big Mama was reluctant in having Riddy and Avella being friends because of their age difference. Even though they both was in 8th grade, Avella was more mature, older, and knew the ropes than Riddy. And Big Mama really didn't want that friendship, but she's like, Riddy don't have any friends. She don't have nobody. Now, Riddy had cousins that lived on the second floor, and and they would play together. Then after a while, their next door neighbors became their best friends, and they no longer had time for Riddy, you know. And whenever Riddy wanted to be a part of the group, Big Mama always would tell her, "You need to sit on the porch. No, you're not going next door." And Riddy was like, "Why can't I go next door?" She's like, "No, no, you stay here." And so she would always see her cousins, and they would go next door and play with the girls next door. So Big Mama knew something that Riddy didn't know. So Riddy spent many lonely days on the porch, and then all of a sudden, Arvella entered her life, and she finally got a little friend. She had a friend named Lydia. God bless her soul. She passed some years ago, and Lydia and Riddy was friends, and they were friends for a few years. But then Lydia went boy crazy, and she didn't have time for Riddy. And Diane, Lydia's sister, she did not like Riddy and Lydia being friends. And one day they got into a fight, and just when Riddy was gonna put a brick upside her head, Big Mama uh, just magically came out the front door and retrieved the brick. Oh, so anyway, back to Arvella. So Arvella was kind of fast, okay, and I remember in eighth grade, Mr. White, Robert White, he used to wear all this perfume. It would be so strong you could smell it before you came up on him. Then years later, I would find out that a lot of time when people have heavy amount of cologne or perfume, it's to mask, to hide the alcohol that they've been drinking. It's to mask the smell of alcohol. And years later, I would find out that Mr. Robert White was an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic, and he died from cirrhosis of the liver. But he was an excellent teacher. Excellent teacher. He knew how to make history come to life. And it was because of him. And even now, I love history. Any kind of history, world history, European history, African American history, black history. I just love history. I love studying the past. And I want to tell you, shh, don't tell nobody. I love reading obituaries. We all have something strange about us. I love reading obituaries. Why? Because it gives the history of the person. It shows the person's journey from birth all the way through to the time of their death, and it also showed their accomplishment, their struggle, their failures, their victories, you know. And I just love reading about people past, how they got to where they are until their time of death. I just love reading about history and any kind of history. Now you know a secret. Well, it's not a secret any longer. I love reading obituary histories. If there's such a category. If not, I just made one up. Obituary history. So anyway, Mr. White. I don't know why I keep saying Mr. Robert. Mr. White had a way of bringing history alive, and I remember one time he was teaching us how a bill become a law. We were studying Constitution. Before you graduated from 8th grade, you had to know the Constitution, and then you had to take the Constitution test. And if you didn't pass, you were not graduating. So we studied the Constitution, and then we got to the part where that hands-on teaching, that working on projects, that happened way back in the 70s. That hand-on teaching, and he was not a chalkboard teacher. He really wasn't. And we used the textbook rarely. He had a way of bringing history to life. So one day he taught us how a bill become a law. And we studied the three branches of law. We studied the executive branch, the legislature, and the judicial branch. Then we studied about the senators and the state rep. And we studied the U.S. level, and we studied the state of Illinois, senators and representatives. And he had a way, we would be in a frenzy. We would be so excited. So we had to learn what age you could be to be a president, a state senator, a state rep. We had to learn how long you could be in those offices, and we had to learn about the House of Representatives and the House of Senate, and what each one do and how long the terms were. So what he did was divided up our class, and some of us was representatives, some of us was senators, and then he had the Speaker of the House, and he had the sergeant of the arms, and I mean, it was exciting. And then he showed us the process of how he taught us about lobbying, and then how you draft a bill, and then how the bill went from the House to the Senate. And then the Senate, they would draft a bill because some constituent members of their community had met with them to present a concern. And then they show how the Senate would draft a bill, and then they would send it to the House. And so the House bill would be HB, and the Senate bill would be SB. And then they would give each other their bills. Now, in order for the bill to turn into the law, both the House and the Senate has to vote on it. And then once they vote on it, then the president has to sign off on it, and then you have the law. So, and then there was many things we learned in Mr. White class. So naturally, as children, as teenagers, and you all could think about the time you had your first crush. Many of us have had a crush on a teacher. Even I had a crush on a couple of my teachers, but teachers are father figures, mother figures. You spend the majority of your life in school and class. So there's a problem when the crush balloons into lust. And then there's a problem when it goes from crush, lust, to acting out. So Vala, 16 years old, in 8th grade, she probably failed class a couple of times. I never asked her. I'm like, she should have been, wow, a junior. She should have been a junior. See, back in the day, they didn't have a problem failing you however many times. You didn't go anywhere until you got the material. So she was 16. She should have been a junior, but she was in 8th grade. She was in 8th grade, and I was 13. So she had 3 years over me. Um, she was very mature. So anyway, Vela, we're walking to school. She stopped by my house. I knew what time she was coming in front of the house, and we would walk to school. We walked to school together all the time. So we walked to school, and back then you had these real big bags. She always wore a black patent leather coat. The girl always wore black. I never asked her about that either. And she would wear the black eyeliner, the black mascara, and she would line her lip with black, and she would put on purple, real, real dark purple lipstick. And then she would wear her hair teased, and she would have a little fro. Then she have a black scarf tied around her head, and she would have underneath her coat. She would have like black clothes, a black top, black skirt. Back then, they didn't let you wear pants to school if you was a girl. If it was real, real cold, you could wear pants to school, but you had to go into the bathroom and take them off. You were not allowed to wear pants in school. So she would have a black top, black skirt, black boots, all this black, right? And so she was about 160 pounds, about 5'6". But she had flat feet. Her whole family had flat feet. Feet like ducks. And then when they walk, they walk like this. You know. So they was a sight to behold, and the neighbors would make fun of them because how they walk. So she stopped by the house to get me, and it's time for us to walk to school. So we're walking, and we're getting ready to cross the street. And right before we cross the street, she lets me know that she's in love. And I'm like, in love with who? And then she let me know she was in love with Mr. White. She was not in love with him, she was in lust. And I'm like, you know, I'm wrinkling up my forehead like I'm doing now, and I'm like, who, what, when, where, how? We crossed the street. We're on the school ground. At that time, we were going to Marshall Upper Grade Center, and then years later, they would tear down the Upper Grade Center because they had too many building violations. It was too expensive to repair, so they just decided to tear that section down, which was joined to Marshall High School. So, and they didn't build a building in place of it. Today, they got like a community garden there. And my niece Kim, she went to Marshall and worked with the community garden horticulture program, and they still got that on as far as I know. But anyway, we're walking on the school ground. She let me know. She confessed her love for Mr. White. She's in love with him. And now I am in shock because I'm looking at Mr. White as a father figure. Because remember, I'm an orphan. I am a orphan with living parents. I do not live with my mother. I do not live with my father. I live with my great grandmother. I live with Big Mama. So I rarely saw my dad. I rarely saw my mother. My world consists of Big Mama, Mud Deer, and my grandfather, my step grandfather, who they call Uncle Sidney. That was it. And then, of course, my aunts, Big Dot, which is Dorsey Martin, Miss J, which is Dorsey Bell, and that's it. You know. So I'm trying to fathom this. You know that this man, he got to be at least in his 40s. How are you 16 years old and you in love with a 40-year-old married man? At that time, Mr. White was married. And I'm like, I'm in shock. I'm like, huh? So that goes to show you never know what's on a person's mind. You don't even know who you're associated with. So she goes on, and then I get another shockaroo. Then she tells me her plan of seduction. She is going to seduce Mr. White. She is going to have sex with him in the classroom. She got a negligee, a black negligee, a black see-through negligee. And we're walking the school ground. We're getting closer and closer to the door to enter the building. And she pulls it out and she shakes it and she shows me. And I'm like, what? I said, why are you bringing this? She said, because I want to be with my man. I want to be with my man. And so then I said, girl, please. So she tells me that when there's a break, because we would get a break, she's going to get a washroom pass. And she's going to take the washroom pass and she's going to go into the bathroom and she's going to put this negligee on under her black patent leather coat. And then by the time she do that, the bell will ring for us to change classes. And then she's going to go in and she's going to open up her coat. And she's going to be with her man. So by now, I am flabbergasted. I'm pleading with her. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So what happened was we are sitting in the classroom and I'm sweating. I'm the one nervous. It's not my plan. Nothing I'm going to do. I am the one nervous. And beads of sweat is going across my head. She's sitting across the room from me, and we're making eye contact. And I am pleading with my eyes, don't do it. Sure enough, she hops up. She asks for a pass to the bathroom. She goes to the bathroom. As soon as she walks over the threshold of the door, the bell rings. Now we are changing class. The bell rings. So she goes out the door and she stays behind while the room empty out, while we all go to our next class. Because back in the day, by sixth grade, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, they get you used to rotating the classroom because they're getting you used to high school. So anyway, she stays behind. The room has emptied out and there's nobody in the room but her and the teacher. So I go to my class and I'm sitting at the desk. Next thing I'm hearing is yelling in the classroom. In the hallway, sorry. Yelling in the hallway. And my teacher runs out. She thinks it's an emergency, a crisis. Well, in a way, it is a crisis. And me being nosy, I already know what's happening. I stick my head out the door, and there is my friend surrounded by the principal, the assistant principal, the school counselor, security guards, and the teacher. They surrounding her, and she's in the middle, and everybody is yelling at her, screaming at her. And I was like, well, you know, next thing I know, security grab her by the arm and they take her down the stairs, take her to the office. She gets not only suspended, but she's expelled out of school. She cannot return to school, but I would not find that out till later. I want you to know that before we before school was out, before that 3 o'clock bell, when I crossed the street from the school ground onto the ground of where I live, the whole neighborhood knew. And that's how it was back in the day. If you did something, news would if you did something at school, news would beat you home. And I lived in a time that if you was bad in class, your teacher, they had paddles in front of the room. And if you were bad, they would take the paddle and then they would tap you, or they would take a ruler, or they would take a pointer and they would tap you. And then they would call your mom. So now you got a whooping in school, and then when you got home, you got a whooping. And then I lived in a time that if you got in trouble with your neighbors, neighbor had permission to whoop you. They will whoop you and then tell your mama on you, and then you will get another whooping. So those were the days. You know, Ashibunka and Edith had nothing when they sing those were the days. No, those were the days. So you did anything in school, the news made it home before you made it home. Before you made it home, the news made you home. So anyway, um, the news met Big Ma, and the one little friend I had, she gave me the news. You cannot hang out with her anymore. So that was the end of our friendship. And what would happen was she got expelled from school. She could not return. And her family ended up moving off the block. But before she moved, I mean, the boys were after her. They would line up like dogs in heat. They was after her. Because word got out. She went to school with a negligee. And after a while, the whole family moved. They bought property and they moved. And so I would see her later, Arvella. I would see her. She I don't know where she went to finish 8th grade, but she ended up at my high school. She ended up at my high school. And I remember walking in the cafeteria during my first year, freshman year, which was her first year, and seeing her across the lunchroom, and we nodded at each other. And I went my way, and she went her way. And she had her friends, I had my friends. My friend was slower speed than me, slower speed. Um, so she would be classified as fast. But one thing that people don't realize is if a young woman is promiscuous, why? There's a root cause to that. I don't know if that's the case with her, but usually why would a 16-year-old have something like that in their mind, a negligee? A lot of times, the young girls are molested, sexually assaulted, and they become promiscuous. I can't say that was the case with her, but a lot of times that has happened. So anyway, we end up at the high school. We both end up graduating. We went separate ways, and later on in life, years later, I would run into her, I believe, at a store. And I was so happy to see her. We would hug each other. and we catch up on the news. I would tell her what I was doing. She would tell me what she was doing. And I was so happy to hear that she had gotten married and she had children. And she ended up in the nursing profession. And she married a very nice guy. She married a guy that was a minister. She became a minister, and they became very active in church. So anyway, she had a good ending. I don't know if she's dead or alive now. You know, I don't know her whereabouts, but I say it was at least 20, 25 years since I ran into her. But I was so naive, so naive. And anyway, that was an interesting part of my life. Once again, this book is entitled Reedy Ann Overcoming the Odds. It can be purchased at McCurr Publishing Company, Amazon, Borders, Walmart. It comes in hardback. I have a hardback in my hand, and paperback, ebook. If you get the paperback have pictures in it. The paperback have pictures. Um, so people that have purchased this book have told me that they can't put it down. The majority of the people is reading it in 2 days. In 2 days, I had one lady told me that after she read it, she had to go lay down. She couldn't believe some of the stuff that was in this book. She said, I just had to lay down, lay down. I had to go lay down. So this book is not boring. The story follows the life of a baby girl, you know, from her very existence, being left in a swing, end up in a apartment complex, given away to her maternal great grandmother, grandmother, step grandfather, therefore causing her to be an orphan at an early age, while yet both parents were alive and functioning in a society that is biased and racist towards them. The book covers the early years of Riddy Ann, from the swing grandma house, learning disabilities, to heartache and heartbreak. Riddy life is followed through the sicknesses, love affair, bouts of depression, suicidal years, through her born again experience. The book follows the main character into the occult, mind control, self discovery, healing, and restoration. The reader will be on edge and feel the ride of a roller coaster, in which they will explore the same and insane experiences of the main character. So, and guess who wrote that? The publisher. After we did the book and she read it, she wrote this. And she was very descriptive and accurate in regard to what wanted to be shared. This book was originally 400 pages, 400 and some pages, and we had to cut a lot of things out. We had to let go of a lot of things to get it down to 250. So 150 pages had to go. 150 years of testimonies and situations, and we had to leave it out. She said that there was enough material to write 5 more books. She said, I'm just going to save it. And then one day, if you want to do a sequence, you want to do a series, I got it right here. I have it right here. I got so much for you. And I appreciate Kathy, And some of you have books inside of you. What are you waiting for? Now that we have the coronavirus going on, and throughout the nation we're on lockdown, this is the perfect time to write your story, your history. Okay? It's even a perfect time to do genealogy, look into your family history and then write stories based on the family. I think also in this book, I wrote about Viola. Viola was one of Big Mama's sisters that was born before her. And I'm trying to find some records on Viola or newspaper clipping because I was told by Big Mama that Viola was a baby born with a mouth full of teeth. She was an infant that had a mouth full of teeth. And she talked. And then one day she told Big Mama mother, Daddy is going to the woods and he's gonna come back with a squirrel. Don't you eat that squirrel. You eat that squirrel, you'll die. So she listened and she didn't eat the squirrel. Sure enough, he walked through the door and he had a squirrel. And Molly, that was Anna White's mother, Molly did not eat the squirrel. And the next day, the little angel, Viola, she died. Just as mysteriously as she appeared, with a full set of teeth, she died. So I have yet to find some information to confirm that. So what I'm doing is encouraging you. You could write stories about your family. You could do research and put together your family history and do a book. I found out so much about my family in the past over 20 plus years. I have so much information and I have to compile it and write it. And I want to give copies to each head of family in my family, the eldest. Each head, I want to give a copy. I hope to have a family dinner, time of celebration, go through things, but all that is up to God. But as I said, our nation is in the middle of a crisis. Use this time to write, so you don't get depressed and be crying and have what the world called cabin fever or climbing up the wall, about to lose it. Um, Stay focused. Write a book. I also share some other things. Right now, I'm just trying to encourage somebody to encourage some things to hold on. Pray. Talk to the Lord. If you don't know the Lord, ask Him to come into your life. You know, call on Jesus. Call on Yeshua. Accept Him as your personal Savior. Then, pray. Do Bible studies. Um, Start up a business. You're like, how? They shutting down business. Every business not shut down. So we need to study those businesses. Those businesses that's not shut down, maybe that's the business you should get into because they still standing. They here. Okay? There's nothing wrong with having a business. You just got to have the right type of business. A business that can survive time. A lot of those businesses that close, they close for good. They're not going to bounce back after this. But that don't mean that you don't have to be around. You just have to make sure you pick the right type of business. Do a non-for-profit. Do your research. Set up a non-for-profit. You need help, you can contact me at 773-544-5341. 773-544-5341. Okay, what else can you do during this time? Read. When the last time you read a book? Okay, I talked to you about writing a book. How about reading a book until you get ready to write your book, and then get an idea of how this book writing go. Pick up some books to read. Go, or you have some books and you never got to them. Pull them out. Okay, do some reading. Bartering. Okay. You like, okay, Dr. Moore, you talking about starting up a business, nonprofit. What about money? How about just looking around and believe God for creativity, productivity, and look for a business opportunity in which you can earn some money? And then, if there's absolutely no money, consider bartering. That's something that happened hundreds of years ago before there was even a money system. People would barter. You got sugar, I got butter. I need sugar, you need butter. And you make an exchange. Make a list of things that is needed. Identify those people that have what you need, and then you look at what you have to offer and make an exchange. Okay, do some bartering. I had a number of things written down. I don't know what I did with the list, but that's something to jumpstart. Listen to music, happy music, anointed music. Reconnect with friends and family. I had the honor of reconnecting with my niece, Kimberly, who lives in Texas. And we talked about a half hour today, and it was a lot of laughter, joy, testimony. I got a chance to see a couple of my nieces, her children, and two of my nephews, and we caught up on family history, and I was able to share some things with her. She was able to share some things with me. And I tell you, this woman of God, she's an evangelist, she's a living testimony, and I am so proud of her, and that God allowed me to have uh, her in a part of my life during her early years, her teen years. Uh, so don't let this time go by. Catch up. Okay, I remember. Catch up on those things that you said, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow never came. You said, I'll get to that tomorrow. Then tomorrow end up a week later. I get to that a week later. You're like, oh, I'm gonna get to it, and then a week done passed, a whole month done passed. Oh, I'm gonna get to it. 6 months done passed. Oh, I'm gonna get to that, and a whole year passed. Okay, those things that you kept saying, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna get to it. Get to them. You got all this time. Very few businesses are open. The businesses that are open are those that where you can get grocery and toilet paper. That's another subject. The toilet paper, paper towel, the hygienic stuff, vitamins, and food. Like people need to order food. Everybody don't have a kitchen. You know, everybody don't have a kitchen. Okay, so they need to have takeout. And that's pretty much it. I think the banks are still open, and UPS, FedEx, they still open, and Amazon. Transportation is still going on, but that's pretty much it. So you can use your time to research. Um, Trust me, there are some entrepreneurs that have been born during this season. And there are some millionaires that's coming up out of this. And that's when people become wealthy in the midst of crisis and trouble. They look at the problem and then they come up with solutions, and they put a price tag on it and they become profitable. They become wealthy. So there's a lot you can do. Hold your head up and move forward. Just move forward, you know. See what's in your hand. What can you do? This is the time for invention, creativity. I just read something on Facebook about Sir Isaac Newton that I didn't even know. He's the one that believed in the law. He talked about the law of gravity. And I read that there was some type of pledge, and he couldn't go to school. He was going to a university, and he was at home, and he invented calculus. Have you heard of calculus? I didn't know that. He invented calculus. Okay. Then he invented the law of gravity and movement. That that was because he couldn't go to school. He couldn't go nowhere. They was in quarantine. Everybody had to go home, and that was like in the 1700s. Everybody had to be home, and something good came out of that bad situation. So let's look for some good to come out of this situation. Creativity, invention, witty invention, productivity, um, moving forward, dreams and vision manifesting, blessings being released. Okay, well, I'm Dr. Eurydice Moore, and this is the third book reading. We have 8 more. I will be on every day at 7 p.m. I was doing series. The next series will be next month sometime. So right now I'm doing the book reading, and then after that we're going to the series, and the next series will be about grant. The first series I did was about 501c3 and starting a non for profit. That was the first series. That ran from March 9th to March 17th. And I did a raffle, and I had someone to win the raffle. So the next series is going to be about grants. What is grants? How do you get a grant? What is the requirement to be considered for grant? And so that's gonna be the next series sometime in March. I have announcement that will be announced, and I want to thank you for viewing this. If there's any questions or concern, you can inbox me or you can leave a message in the comments. I do watch each video after it's air so that I could check for comments or questions. And I just want you to take care. I'll be back tomorrow Thursday. I'll be back at 7 p.m. to do book reading number 4. And I'm trying to think which one will I do. It's so many stories within those 250 pages of Ridian Overcoming the Odd that you can get in hardback, paperback, ebook, okay, by Mercure Company, Amazon, Borders, Walmart. You know, it's just so much. You can, so many stories to choose from here. So I'm trying to pick the ones that'll make you laugh. They'll make you like, oh, really? That really happened? You know, kind of lighten the mood of the moment that you might be experiencing. Um, so I'm pretty much looking for the comical side of stories. Every now and then I might do a drama. Oh God, life would be boring without drama, isn't that right? hmm Okay, this is Dr. Moore signing off, thanking you for visiting, thanking you for viewing. I'm thinking in advance for those that will view. If you need to get in contact with me, I am on Facebook. Send a friend request, inbox me, send a message to me by messenger, leave your number in the comment, and I will get to you. God bless, Godspeed. Have a good night. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m.